If you have ever inherited a messy database, and let's be honest, we all have, you know this feeling. Duplicate customer records created by broken import scripts, null values scattered across columns you depend on for reporting, a country field that has USA in capital and USA in small letters, all coexisting in the same table, each one creating its own separate group in every query you run. And then there's one transaction with a $15 million purchase amount that is absolutely 100% a data entry error. These aren't rare cases. This is what real production data looks like. And cleaning it, doing it properly, repeatedly, without guesswork is one of the most valuable skills a data analyst can have. Today, I'm going to give you 5 production-ready SQL queries that cover the most common data quality problems you'll encounter. Duplicates, missing values, inconsistent text, outliers, and validation errors. These aren't academic examples. Every one of these patterns I have used in a real analytics or data engineering role. By the end of this video, you'll have a toolkit you can drop into any project starting today. For this video, I'll be using SQL syntax specific for SQL Server, but you can do some minor tweaks onto these queries to incorporate them in any database engine you have. So if you're interested, keep watching. Query number 1, duplicates. And before we talk about how to remove them, I want to talk about why the naive solution fails. Most people reach for select distinct as their first instinct, and select distinct works but only when the entire row is identical. The moment two duplicates differ by even a single character, even a trailing space in an email address or a different created date, select distinct misses them completely. Look at this table. Customer C001 appears twice. Same customer ID, same email address, but different dates. Because they registered twice or because a data migration created a ghost record. Select distinct would return both rows. They are technically distinct rows. What we actually want is one row per customer and specifically the most recent one. That requires a different approach. The tool for this job is row number with partition by. Now let's break down what this query is doing. The CTE, the common table expression. At the top is a named subquery. We're calling it ranked records. Inside it, we select every column from customer table and we add one computed column, a row number. Row number is a window function. It doesn't collapse rows the way group by does. Instead, it assigns a sequential integer to each row within a defined group. The group is defined by partition by. In our case, we are partitioning by customer ID and email. That means for each unique combination of customer ID and email, start counting from 1. Order by created date descending means the most recent record gets row number 1, older records gets 2, 3, 4 and so on. Then the outer query is beautifully simple. Select everything from ranked records where row number equals 1. Every group of duplicate has exactly one row with row number equal to 1, the most recent. All the others have higher numbers and get filtered out. One thing to be careful about, the column you put in partition by define what counts as a duplicate. In this example, we are using both customer ID and email, which catches cases where someone registered twice with the same email, but the ID was somehow different. And one pro tip, run this as a select first before you do anything destructive. Always verify the row counts and ensure that it looks right. Never go straight from discovery to deletion of records. If you're using this in a production pipeline, consider materializing this as a cleaned view or a new table, so analysts always query the deduplicated version by default. Query number 2, missing values. Nulls are one of the most misunderstood things in SQL, and how you handle them has a massive impact on accuracy of your analysis. The first mistake people make is jumping straight to fixing nulls without measuring how many they are. If 15% of your email addresses are missing, that's very different from 15 rows in a million row table. This completeness query exploits a fundamental property of count in SQL. Count with a column name ignores nulls. Count star counts everything. So count star minus count of customer name gives you the number of missing names. Divide by total rows, multiply by 100, round to 2 decimal places, and you have a completeness percentage. Run this across every important column in your table. What comes back is a health check. It tells you exactly where your gaps are before you write a single cleaning transformation. In the bar chart, you can see this dataset is 97% complete on customer name. Very good. But only 78% complete on city, 62% on phone. Those numbers tell you something about your data collection process, not just your cleaning task. Now for filling those gaps, COALESCE is your best friend. COALESCE takes any number of arguments and returns the first one that is not null. In this query, we are building a contact phone column. Try phone primary first. If that's null, try phone secondary. If that's also null, fall back to string no phone available. This waterfall logic is incredibly versatile. You can chain as many fallbacks as you need, and critically, the fallback values don't have to be column references. They can be literal strings, computer expressions, or even subquery results. The COALESCE pattern also works perfectly for replacing nulls in dimensions which are unknown. Here's an important warning that trips up a lot of analysts. Do not blindly replace numeric nulls with zeros. The customer with a null purchase is not same as customer who spent nothing. So if you replace nulls with zero and then compute an average, you're pulling that average down with synthetic zero value records that don't represent real transactions. The correct approach for aggregate is to filter out nulls in where clause, where purchase amount is not null. SQL's aggregate function like average and sum already ignores nulls, but only if you let them. The moment you convert nulls to zero, you've changed the meaning of the data and your aggregate becomes meaningless. Use COALESCE for display and reporting purposes. Use isNotNull filters for aggregate calculations. Knowing the difference is important. Query number 3. Text standardization. And I want you to really look at this country column for a second. 6 different string values, all of them meaning the same 2 countries. Every one of them will create its own separate row in a group by query. Your aggregate report will show USA with 234 records, USA with 67 records, and United States with 89. They're all the same country. This happens because data comes from multiple sources with no enforced formatting. Different import files, different web forms, different vendors. By the time it reaches your table, it's a chaos. The fix is 3 SQL functions working together. Step 1. Trim. This removes leading and trailing white spaces. You'd be amazed how often a field looks correct on screen but actually has a space at the end, making it not match anything in a lookup table. Step 2. Upper. This normalizes the case. So we are comparing everything in uppercase regardless of how it was originally entered. Step 3. Case. Now that everything is trimmed and uppercased, we can build a mapping. When the cleaned value is u.s.a or US, standardize it to USA. Same logic for UK and UAE. The else clause is your safety net. Any value that doesn't match your known variant gets returned as is in uppercase. You'll want to review those periodically as new value enter your system. One thing I like to do is run a group by on the original country column first, ordered by count, to see what variants actually exist in your data. Build your case statement from that list, not from what you assume the value might be. Query number 4. Outlier detection. Every real dataset has them. Values so extreme they distort every aggregate you compute. Imagine your average transaction value is $87. Now add one fraudulent transaction for $100,000. Your average just jumped to over $950. Your median is still 52. The mean is now useless. The challenge with outlier is that they are not wrong by definition. A $100,000 purchase might be a data entry error. Someone added 2 extra zeros. Or it might be your single most important enterprise client. You can't just delete values because they are large. You need to flag them, understand them, and then decide. The approach here uses 2 CTEs, 2 layered subqueries, and a statistical technique called 3 sigma rule. The first CTE computes 2 values for the entire dataset, the mean using average and the standard deviation using stdev. These are your reference statistics. The second CTE joins every transaction row against those statistics using a cross join. A cross join with a single row subquery is a clean way to make aggregate statistics available at the row level without a group by. Then we have our case statement. If the absolute distance between a transaction purchase amount and the mean exceed 3 times the standard deviation, it's flagged as an outlier. Otherwise, it's normal. The outer select filters to show only flagged rows. You can change where outlier flag equals outlier to just select everything and sort by outlier flag. Useful when you want to see both populations side by side. Now let me explain why 3 standard deviation. In a normal distribution, 1 standard deviation from the mean captures 68% of your data. 2 standard deviation captures 95%. 3 standard deviation captures 99.7%. Anything beyond 3 sigma is the outermost 0.3%, statistically rare enough to warrant investigation. That's the zone we are flagging. A few caveats: purchase amounts are usually not normally distributed. They are often right skewed, with a long tail of high value transaction. In those cases, 3 sigma might not be sensitive enough or might flag too many legitimate big purchases. Alternatives for non-normal data include the IQR method, flagging anything outside 1.5 times the interquartile range, or domain-specific thresholds like anything above $50,000 gets reviewed. Here are the 2 flagged records: T5021 at $100,000, T6234 at $95,500. Both well beyond 3 sigma from the mean. And here's the most important advice I can give you about outliers. Do not auto-delete. Not yet. First, look up these transaction IDs in your source system. Check if there's an audit trail. Was this a manual entry, a batch import? Does the customer have a history of large purchases? If it's a genuine data entry error, and that's what most outliers turn out to be, delete or correct it. If it's a real transaction from a legitimate customer, keep it in your analytical dataset, but consider whether it should be excluded from certain aggregates. Flag first, investigate second, decide third. Never the other way around. Query number 5, data validation. This one is different from previous 4. We are not fixing structural problems. We are checking whether the data is logically consistent with your business rules. There are 6 categories of validation error we are checking in this single query. Future order dates, which shouldn't exist. Ship dates before the order date, which is physically impossible. Quantities and price at 0 or below, which represents invalid transactions. Calculation mismatches, where quantity times purchase doesn't equal the recorded total amount. And email addresses that don't match a basic format pattern. You can extend this to any business rule that matters in your domain. For a healthcare dataset, it might be ages over 120 or negative test results. For logistics, it might be weights that exceed vehicle capacity. For finance, it might be debits and credits that don't balance. Let's walk through the query. Each case statement checks one rule and returns a descriptive error string when the rule is violated, or null when the record is clean. The column name tells you which rule it failed. Future order date. If order date is greater than current date, return future order date. That string becomes the value of the data error column for that row. Logic error. Ship date before order date. This one catches data that is internally inconsistent. A shipment can't leave before the order was placed. Quantity and price checks are straightforward. 0 or negative values for either of these represent records that should have never passed validation at the point of entry. The calculation check is subtle but important. We are comparing quantity times unit price against the recorded total amount, with a tolerance of 1 cent to handle floating point rounding. If they diverge by more than a penny, something is wrong. Either the price was changed after the order was placed, or the total was manually overridden. Finally, the email format check using like. The pattern that you see here translate to there must be at least 1 character before the @ sign, at least 2 characters for the domain name, a dot, and at least 2 characters for the top level domain. It's not a foolproof validator, but it catches the most common entry errors. The where clause at the bottom uses or to surface any records that fails at least one check. One query, comprehensive coverage. When you run this query, what comes back is an audit list. Every row is a record that violated at least one business rule, with descriptive column telling you exactly what went wrong. This gives us an overall data quality score. We have just under 48 flagged rows out of 816 total orders, meaning roughly 94.2% of data is clean and passes all 6 checks. 94.2% sounds decent, but think about what the 5.8% means in practice. In an e-commerce business processing 1,000 orders a day, that's 58 broken records every single day cascading through your downstream reports, your finance reconciliations, your CRM. Run this validation query as a scheduled job, daily or even hourly for high volume systems. Alert when error rates spike above a threshold. Don't wait for someone to notice wrong numbers in a dashboard 6 months later. So there you have it. Reliable pattern beat exotic functions every single time. You don't need a machine learning model to detect most data quality problems. You don't need a third-party library. Take these boilerplate queries, adapt them to your schema, and you will handle 90% of the data quality problems you encounter in real world. The practice dataset with all 5 queries are in the link in the description. I've included deliberate errors in the data so that you can run every query and see real results immediately. Let me know in the comment section what is your most extreme data cleaning challenge and what does your messiest column look like. And before you go, consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell icon so that you do not miss any content that I upload. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.